All right. What's up, guys? Welcome back. Another Sunday Night Live, episode number 144. So how y'all been? How's everybody doing? It's been a long week here at the shack. Lots of stuff going on. Uh so I'm just gonna sit here for a second and let Steve tell y'all what he's got going on. Steve?
I got mosquitoes in here.
That's no good.
No. Yeah, it's been a week, but it's been nice weather, nice fall weather. Leaves are falling, or starting to anyway. But with the doors open, that means the insects start coming in. I've tried to keep the crickets at bay, but they're starting to sneak in, so may hear a little chirping, but no. Yeah, just been well, I think you had mentioned, at least in your members only one, but we've kind of hinted at that there's been a number of things we've been in talking with people about as far as equipment and such. And I mean, some of these go back to last winter.
Yeah.
And they all decided to ship them like 2 to 3 weeks ago, which is kind of annoying because when we said, yeah, that'd be great, I was thinking like, May.
Yeah.
Not the busiest time for me, as as hopefully everybody's ramping up into busy times too, with fall season, a lot of holidays, a lot of things getting together, a lot of customized items for people and such. So yeah, I did put out a video on the Omtech Solus Duo. It's an enclosed Galvo laser. They have 3 different versions of it. The one I have is the 30-watt fiber and 20-watt blue diode. And think of it a really good competitor to like the Xtool F1 Ultra. It's got a camera in it. It's got about a 9+ inch working area with the bigger lens. It's got a little more power in the fiber and everything. So yeah, it's been a fun machine to work with the past couple of weeks, and I don't know. The nice thing is it works really well in Lightburn. There's the only caveat to Lightburn is that to change the source, you actually have to go into the device settings and change the laser type. So you can't run like a dual job, start out with engraving in IR and then cut with the blue diode. But other than that, it's a pretty nice machine. So got that done and started playing with a few other things too. So.
Cool. Sounds like it was fun. I think a few people have noticed that. I've got me I have built a clone of Steve's workshop here at the shack, so that it looks a lot like Steve's, but I've got some things that are a little different than over at Steve's. But no, I've been playing around with trying to get the other channel going and doing some different things. And sometimes, you get to where it's like, okay, the background of the shop, I want to mix things up. So now I actually have the ability that I can do whatever I need to with the background to make it look different or cooler. I've got several of them in here that I can play around with. But yeah, so some of y'all caught on pretty quick. I was wondering how long it was going to take everybody to notice that I had Steve's shop in the background. But yeah, there you go. There's Steve's shop again.
Identity theft is no joke, Dave.
Yeah, but in reality, let me turn this thing off here and I'll show you. In reality, it is actually, let me go over here to my filters. That's it. But now it is kind of wicked. I'm gonna go ahead and told you. Let me see here. Let me turn this one back on. All right, it's kind of cool because I'm gonna move this out of the way. It's kind of neat though. I got too much stuff in the way.
The magic's disappearing.
Yeah, I got way too much junk sitting around. But yeah, the Omni is it's like being erased, apparently. So let me go in here again. Change this filter. Let me turn this filter off temporarily. So look there, boom, right back like it needs to be. So there you go. But yeah, a new little setup. I built that out of scrap pieces of material, actually. And I even found a set of roller wheels over in a drawer that I didn't even know I had.
Did you take apart the kids' rollerblades?
No, I'm one of those. Like if I throw something away, I think the wheels come off a shop vac. But if I throw something away and like it's got something I think I might could use to fix something, like you know how the shop vac wheels typically just pop out of the bottom of them.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is because all I did is drilled holes in the 2x4s on the bottom and popped them up in there. So I mean, but it works, it works. But yeah. No, the cool thing about this guy is I can put it right over here, and nobody will never know.
This is from the guy who says he has too much stuff in his shop.
I do have too much stuff in my shop.
Yeah, so are you using a booster seat when you're using my background?
Do I now?
Were you using a booster seat when you were using my background?
No, not using a booster seat. But yeah, it gets back over there out of the way. So yeah, it's something fun to have. I figure too, like when I can put it in the trailer and stuff. When I go to events, if I wanted to like take the shack with me to events to take photos or whatever, you never know what I could do. So
yep.
There you go. Yeah. 24 more days until retirement.
Getting down there.
Oh yeah. And I am looking forward to it. It's getting closer and closer. But that was my project for myself this weekend. I've been wanting to do that. I had some stuff in the yard that I've been wanting to do. As far as like some improvements where I had washes and stuff. My little robot kept getting stuck. So I did that yesterday. I got the tractor out and did some bush hogging and fixed those spots. I used my tractor in my driveway. I've got grass that grows in places that I don't really want grass. And so I take the bucket of the tractor and kind of scrape it almost like sod.
Mm-hmm.
And then take it and put it in other places in the yard. So yeah, it's been a weekend. I have been busy. I did get the video out, the first video out anyway. You know how that's going to go on the Glacier, which I like the Glacier. Like I said, there's some things about it I would have done differently, but all in all, it's a good machine. I like it. I'm like you. I really wish that it gave us options on the size, like where it was wide but not quite as deep. That's the biggest thing that I wish they would do is offer that in like a 800 by 500. I think that would be a good number. So we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, they could stretch it out a little bit wider if they wanted the working area, but it is pretty deep as it is. But and my problem is going to be it's nice now. I can open up the doors and let all the mosquitoes in and the crickets in. Let the smoke blow out, but that's not going to last long. And
yeah,
I'm gonna not be able to run that thing without an enclosure. Now they did mention they have kind of it's mostly acrylic with like a metal frame, I think, kind of enclosure, and they did mention trying to get those sent out. It still takes up a lot of space, and once you build that enclosure, that's a big box that
Yeah, I've come up with a couple of solutions for, makeshift enclosures that's not just an enclosure. And I thought about doing that. Klein come over here earlier and we were discussing it, and he thinks it's a good idea. But what I'm basically considering is kind of the way that I have, like you see, I've got my CNC table, and this table is building a table in that like kind of method, but having it to be a little low and basically have like a 16-inch box on the top of it underneath the actual tabletop, and having the machine in there, and having it to where you can raise the work surface up and use the laser, and even taking the CNC on the side panels and cutting me some ovals to put in some like windows so I could actually see what was going on inside the laser in case there was, a flame or something. But I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to do that or not. I think it would be cool if I could do that, because I could do like a 50 by 50 tabletop table and replace this one that's sitting here now, and have that machine, but have it basically inside a table that you have to lift the top up to access the laser, and just have a little void right up top that, the laser could sit in. So it would be kind of a laser enclosure, but it would also be, when I'm not using it, it could be, an assembly table, glue up to station, whatever.
I'd almost think you'd almost have to have like it on drawer slides, so you can pull it out at least part way, put stuff in, Well,
what I had thought was to do, have it open up like a car hood.
Well, yeah, but I was thinking if you're going to keep your other tools on top and have it, working that way.
Oh, you're talking about like under the bottom? I was going to add a drawer under the bottom because see, I've got power tools.
No, I was saying if you're going to put it where your other power tools are,
yeah,
you could, but you wouldn't be able to flip it up. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah,
but you could slide it out part way, put your material.
No, I'm just going to make this as a flat top table, just like this one is. This one's just a regular.
You don't have room for that though.
If I got rid of this table, I do. Okay. Because the only thing that's underneath that table right now is a skill saw, biscuit joiner, stuff like that. If I built the other table, I could build in accommodation for the cooler, and I could put a drawer in there, or just a shelf to keep my jigsaw, biscuit joiner, and all that on if I wanted to, or in if I wanted to. So I don't know. We're gonna have to see. It is getting very crowded in here.
Yeah, well, in any case, that's the problem that people will deal with any of these, from Atom Stack and IKEA. Their max versions are this 800 by 800, and you're dedicating some space to it, or you're building some contraption around it. And you got to ask yourself, how often are you going to use that big of a laser?
Well, if I did that, I would probably end up like not having this one over here. If I dedicated that, I would probably just wind up having this as a testing chamber. But I don't know. I like my enclosure and everything. I've got everything set up to where it flows really well. I am very leery about moving anything right now. Well, Brian, it's a good thing I turned all my paperwork in, and I've already got my date and my deposit set up to go, I guess. Unfortunately, that is not true there, Brian, sir. My first check is already set to deposit October the 1st.
So we were talking about the Glacier, and I know you got your video out. Both of us got prototype machines, and they're not even necessarily identical as far as firmware and such and other things. But
they are now. I think I pushed that firmware to mine.
You got the latest one as well too. So yeah. Mine's been working, but it has a weird tick to it that it randomly wants to connect via Bluetooth. And so I've been working with Atom Stack on that. But so I've been working through some tests and such. I know a few people asked, I think, on your video about some things. So this is my result on Baltic Birch, 1/8-inch Baltic Birch. So this is on the normal setting, not the turbo. So it would be like 100 watt. So we're getting through it 21 and 22 millimeters a second. This is a single pass, and I am dropping the focus down about 2 millimeters on this. And there's the backside. It's actually pretty clean. This is with it elevated. This isn't sitting on the honeycomb. I have it elevated about 3/8 inch. I think someone asked about Baltic Birch, 1/4 inch. Well, there's from 15 to 20.
Yeah, it was a little too fast.
Single pass. Well, some 1/4 inch plywood. Well, almost 1/4 inch. This is some of that 4.5 millimeter stuff from you.
Yeah.
See, this was getting through at, if I get this point to where it's going to focus, at 22. But Baltic birch, it's 5 layers of hardwood. So I did slow it down, and we were able to get through at 13. And so this is legit Baltic birch. Pulled some from my stash and such. And then the backside, again, this is elevated, but you're starting to see as it gets slower, you get a little more of that staining. And then I ran some Home Depot 1/2 inch. Like, this is the nicer Home Depot stuff, not their just like lightweight sanded plywood. So I ran some tests. The first one failed, of course. In a single pass, and this is dropping the focus down 6 millimeters, because this is about 12 millimeter stuff. I was able to get through there. I think the 8 one I had to kind of encourage to drop. The 7 dropped on its own and such, but the backside looks like it went through a fire, because literally, you can see the fire. It's lighting the smoke and the vapors. The beam is actually lighting on fire. So I did an example here. This is a bigger one. This is 6.5 millimeter. And the back is charred. So then I took it at 14 millimeter, but 2 pass. Get it to stop being weird about the focus. And the backside is much cleaner.
Yeah, the 2 passes seems to be, as far as housekeeping wise, it seems to be an advantage. But I think what we need is, like a blade bed that has like 3 inches below it to keep that big. But the gases, I'm seeing the same thing you are. The gases are igniting is what's happening.
Yeah, and that's a problem. When you get too slow, it's just igniting those gases. And so, and here's my point. Everybody likes to talk about cut X wood thick in single pass. No, it's going to be an ugly cut. The fact that it can cut through 1/2 inch reasonably well at 14 millimeter a second, even with 2 passes, is good enough, is decent enough. This is not going to be usable. And in any smaller cases, I mean, here it's literally charred on that backside from cutting slow. So, and that's what some of the things I look at is when they bring it up in marketing, like, oh, it can cut through certain thickness material, single pass. I'm going to run it. I'm going to see, and it's usually going to be either failed or, yeah, it technically did it, but this is not usable. Let's back things off to see where it actually is usable. So I try to put those in some of my tests and such for you. But that's kind of where I'm at. I've been running a number of tests on plywood, and also on kind of same thing on, this is like 1/2 inch. These are like cedar fence picket boards. And there again, you see from the different speeds, this was sitting more directly on the honeycomb. You're just getting that kind of ugly backside
of the honeycomb. Yeah. Yeah. And it's like I said, it's a lot of power. So I've been doing, like, as far as, like you said, it's keeping the flame, because it is not that the wood's catching on fire, it's the gases, it's introducing all that airflow and the gases underneath that honeycomb, and it looks like you've got a flamethrower under there at times. So I think the 2 passes, because the passes are so fast, and the machine so far, I've had good step accuracy on it as far as being able to go back and it not be offset. I think the 2 passes is going to be the safer, more, requires less cleanup, and actually faster in the long run approach with these higher powered machines like this. Because, like I said, we're getting to the point to where these honeycombs that were designed for 5 and 10 watt machines are not suitable for these 120 watt machines, because there's not enough air gap for the material to get rid of the gases. The gases are getting caught in the little pockets on the honeycomb, and it's basically like a bunch of little tiny pipe bombs, because that flash point of those, that wood gas and stuff, it's a whole new dynamic that you used to didn't have to worry with the lower powered machines. But it is cool. I do want to try to build myself a blade bed or something to where I have more room. But there again, it's like you can just as easily slow it down and take your time. Oh, I'll say slow it down. It's technically you're running 2 laps, but your laps are twice as fast. So, I mean, technically, it's going to be very close to the same amount of time. Plus, you don't have to worry about the cleanup on the backside of the material. Well, the front side looks great. It's the backside that I'm having problems with.
Sometimes it's even faster because, you know, when you're trying to get through in one pass, you often have to slow it down more to ensure a clean cut, whereas that second pass the first pass might get through, you know, like 2/3, and then that second pass has a much better chance of getting through all the way. So like on those squares I showed, the single pass was 6.5, whereas the double pass was 14. So it's technically getting the job done faster and cleaner. So
yeah. Here's let me show you. I'll show this one. This is the one on mine where I triggered the flame alarm, and like this was one of those where you can see the gases burning underneath there. You can see that the lasers just kind of running through see that's the gases on fire. That's what that was. That was not a flame coming from any material. That was the gases on fire, and it triggered the flame alarm. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I like the idea. I like the machine. But when you get to these high powers, like I said, you've got to take in consideration that kind of stuff. But it's on the same note, it's been doing a really good job. Have you played with yours much on the 40-watt setting as far as like engraving or anything?
No.
It surprised me on that. I was expecting it to be a little more pixelated than what it was. So
no, I haven't done a lot of the engraved stuff other than just the labels on the cut tests. So anyway, I know we've got a few questions in here. I'm going to scroll back a little ways just to see if we can catch some of them.
Why are you shoving on me, dog?
Sharon's asking, can you cut the orange protective acrylic on that you use on your enclosure with a MK2 XW or with a 4-inch Dremel style handsaw? You won't be able to cut the acrylic with the glacier. It's still physics in the wavelength that won't interact with it. You can cut it with a CO2, and I've done that before. So that orange protective acrylic is not the right wavelength for a CO2 laser, and I knew that going into it. I purposely cut the protective acrylic with my CO2, knowing that it could. Otherwise, you can use an O-flute bit on a CNC router or table saw. You can cut it with a variety of things, but definitely not the diode laser. I have a couple of panels from an old enclosure actually set up kind of in front and back, because as I'm running it with my garage door open, like today, the neighbor's kids, they're not close, but I didn't want any of that kind of purple light just bleeding out while they were playing in the yard. So I put those up just at kind of laser height, a little bit a little higher than the laser, that they wouldn't have any harsh reflected beams or anything like that. But yeah, it's definitely something that's gonna need. I mean, even if I didn't have that, even if I had my shop closed, I'd still want something, because even with my doors open, it was getting smoky in here a little bit. So,
oh yeah,
it absolutely needs an enclosure.
Yeah. I think she was referring to the MK2 extra wide is what she was wanting to cut it with. But
sure, yeah. But
any color other than black with a blue diode, you're probably not going to have good results.
Brian's asking, how's the UV printer doing? He was going to ask David, but so
everybody got a
joke. So they're starting to ship the first production units to some of the original backers and such. We have been promised new production machines to replace our pre-production ones, because they are updating They have done a number of updates to try to help with the ink usage and other things. That the updates they made, actually the original printers were going to be incompatible with the new cartridges. So they did promise us some new devices, but you know, we're just kind of waiting in line with other people as we run out of ink. So excited to get that. Excited to do some, hopefully be able to do some holiday things with it. But yeah, I'm kind of in that waiting game with everybody else. So, but yeah, it's I'm excited to see other people get theirs and see what they make with them.
Yep. Radu said, "Is that Gene splicing my biscuit joiner?" Speaking of, there he is. He just wanted to come in a minute ago, but no, I haven't used the biscuit joiner as much lately as I used to. I used to use it a lot.
I haven't used mine in a long time.
I did a picture frame here recently, and I wound up using it because I made it out of like quarter. What was it, like a 1x4 poplar 1x4s, and I used it on the corners just to add some rigidity to it.
My problem is every time I use mine, I somehow end up leaving the cap off of my tin of biscuits, and I somehow end up like knocking the thing over, and then I spend more time picking up biscuits off the shop floor than I do joining the boards together. So I don't know why.
Yeah.
But Kevin's asking, do you use long USB cords or do you have USB hubs run through Cat 5? I have a longer USB plug and I lose connection to the laser from time to time. Both of us use powered USB hubs. David pushes his further because he's got kind of that up the wall, ceiling, down the post kind of thing to behind him. I have kind of a spread out bench here, but yeah, we both use powered USB hubs. The big tips on there is try to spread out your devices and don't put two cameras on one hub / dual cameras into one USB port at the computer tends to fail. So try to spread those out as well.
Yeah. And this is the ones that I use, but these are powered, especially on long runs. If you're using, like I've got I think it's a 18 or 20 foot, maybe 25. It goes up the wall behind the monitors there, overhead, and then down. And you can see right there below the mirror, that's where that other hub is. And I made this little guy, which allows these to sit and snap in like so, and then I can screw them to the wall or to the enclosure or whatever. And so that works out really good. You can 3D print this, but I'm gonna be honest with you, these laser cut ones are fast and effective. It's 2 layers, but this one, like that sits in there, like it snaps in that and doesn't move. This piece here is just more or less to add a little rigidity to it and make it a little bit more robust. I need to glue this one together. But this is just a spare one I made when I was prototyping them out. What are you growling and barking about? Let me go let this dog outside. He's just being a diva tonight.
Melissa's asking, I've watched a few CNC videos and like how it carves deep inside the wood. Is it possible to do this with my X-Tool S1 laser? Is there a machine that does what a CNC and a laser do combined? So yeah, it's called a pocketing path on the CNC router where you'll kind of go down so far into the material, but you wouldn't necessarily cut through. And you can get a similar effect with a laser by doing, multiple fill passes. On my latest video, I actually showed using a depth map, and this is the result of it. You'll kind of see that that is down, 2 or 3 millimeters, and it's based on of course, the image gives it different depths throughout it. You could do a solid one and just do, end up doing like 20, 30, 40 passes to bring your depth down. The difference is you're going to be burning it. So it's going to be harder to get like a precise depth. And that's depending on if you're trying to join 2 pieces together and have a certain depth, that could be an issue versus if you're just trying to do, say, like an epoxy fill, then it doesn't matter necessarily. You just got to get deep enough to have enough to hold the epoxy. So it's kind of possible, but without quite the precision depth setting of the CNC, and it takes a lot more time with this. So
the grain too is going to interact differently. So the grain will be kind of 3-dimensional as well.
Yeah.
So you'll have like high spots where the grain's more dense, and then low spots where the grain is less dense. So it's hard to get the same product with the laser that you do with a CNC.
Yeah. See, like this is a pocket and V carve on a CNC, and I was able to set the exact depth I wanted on that one. Because it just drops the tooling down that far. So I don't know that there's any machine that, I mean, you can get multi-function machines that would have both a CNC and a laser on it, but they kind of have, there's some overlap between the two, but usually one does something better than the other. So that's just kind of the trade-off there. So
yeah, that's my half a fish.
You should have done the other half.
Yeah, this is just the left half of the fish. but yeah, you can do like this kind of stuff is cool to me. Technically, I could make, do this half of the fish and then mirror image this and do the other half and then glue them together. So you can do some really cool stuff with a CNC. It's a little, like I said, there are some similarities, but it's a whole nother animal when you start setting all that up.
Steve Wright's mentioning, so a good downdraft table with blades would work, and referring to the burning on the backside. And yeah, that would be ideal. And that's why one of the reasons I try to get a downdraft table in any of my enclosures is it's drawing all that away from the material rather than trying to come back up or linger around it. So, a traditional CO2 laser of this size would have a blade bed in it and would have a downdraft to it. So something to deal with at this size.
Yeah. Brian wants to know whose machine is more prototype.
I think mine is. I could tell mine had a few hours on it before I got it.
Yeah, mine had been used as well. But mine, apparently, whoever used mine didn't use Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, and I'm very thankful because I haven't had the problems with the Bluetooth or the Wi-Fi that Steve had.
But yeah, and that's just it hasn't detracted from the laser's performance. It's just I'll be working and all of a sudden it goes bloop. Oh, I want to connect to Bluetooth. And I'm like, and I have to wait for it. So I've been working with them on trying to figure out, how to disable that or revert it or something. Unfortunately, it's not necessarily like a GRBL command. It's going to be something in the firmware or on the actual Arduino board itself. So,
Mark, I guess he's talking about the flame up problem, but yeah, the A70 will do it too. Luckily, the way that I've got my exhaust set up in my A70, it's not as bad because the exhaust is actually below the honeycomb, and so it sucks those fumes and stuff out fast enough to where the fuel air ratio isn't enough to result in a flame. Because that's a lot of it too, is if you can just get that gas and stuff to move so that it doesn't hit that sweet spot as far as like the fuel air mixture, it won't ignite. Like, because if you have too much of a concentration or not enough of a concentration, it's safe. It's just when it gets to that sweet spot to where the fuel air ratio is just right, and then you introduce an ignition source, i.e. a laser cutting through material with sparks flying from it, then you get that, sudden flame up. And then once you get through that little Goldilocks zone as far as the mixture goes, then everything's just smoke and gases and stuff. So it would definitely be a candidate if I were them for, I know I've seen some other folks have done like a downdraft type setup. I think you tested one out with somebody.
Yeah, it's called fun.
Yeah. I think something like that with this big machine would definitely be an accessory that there would be a market for, because you could set the machine on top of it, have a blade bed, have the fans pull the exhaust straight down and out. It would definitely be something worth looking into.
Yeah. Mark's asking, did CO2 lasers have the same issue with burning on the back for equivalent power levels? The problem is you can't compare the same wattage CO2 to the same wattage diode. The wavelengths interact with the material differently, and so and also the CO2s have a more efficient burn than the diodes. They're more of like a sintering burn, and which gives you some really nice dark engraves, but it also creates a little more of that char, and I think a little more of that smoke. So you can have the same problem on CO2 lasers if you have if gas is getting trapped underneath the material in a honeycomb, you'll still get those little micro explosions and such from it. And a lot of that is kind of what we've been talking to, is just airflow design is really what's going to help you with that. And that's where they tell you, get a blade bed or get more air moving through there so it can't get trapped. So yes, it's possible, but honestly, you could get that with like a 60 to 70 watt CO2 just as easy as you could with 120 equivalent diode and such. So
yeah, it's got a lot to do with the bed structure. Like, I mean, because like I said, we're running a 120 watt diode laser on a honeycomb that was designed back in the 10 watt days. So obviously it is not intended to be used in that situation. The higher you raise the material and you have distance below it, or you have more airflow, the less of that you'll have going on. And that's one of the things, like Steve said, you're kind of comparing apples to oranges, because the CO2 lasers don't generate the kind of heat that 450 nanometers will either, because it interacts with the material differently. That's why typically CO2 engraves aren't quite as dark as diodes, because it's not creating as much heat. But yeah, it is anytime you're dealing with anything blue lasers or even CO2s, but especially with the blue lasers, you're going to get really nice black engraves, but you do put a lot of heat into the material as well.
Tony's asking if I have stock in fire extinguishers. I don't have stock, but I do have more than one of these in here.
Yeah, I got one right there. I got one over on the front of my CNC, and I got one over there by the door. But for the most part, my little Windex bottle with water in it is all I ever use.
Yeah, it's like I say, I generally have one near the machines I'm working with, just in case. I have one just inside the door. That way, if I'm running in here or someone else is running in here because something went on fire, they could grab that. But yeah, like you say, when you're watching it, often just a little spritz of water or even just a puff of air will extinguish it. But good to have them around, good to check them, not let them get old. And I don't worry about, a lot of people worry about, well, they got to be the CO2 variety so they don't damage your laser. By the time it's bad enough, I'm grabbing the fire extinguisher. I'm not worried about the laser at that point.
If the Windex bottle ain't working, we'll deal with the rest of it later.
Yeah.
Typically, stop the laser, spray it with a Windex bottle, and walk it outside and put it in a place to where if it does catch back on fire, it's not going to burn your shop down.
Yep.
But yeah. Jeffrey's asking, is the Atom Stack Hurricane still a good CO2 choice, or the Polar better now? Well, my Polar Plus is down for the moment, and the Atom Stack Hurricane's still running. I don't know that it's a fair comparison, but I will say that the Atom Stack Hurricane is at Klein's shop, but he's still using it. And I'm trying to figure out whether my power supply or my controller went out in my Polar Plus. So, but there again, anything can break. You can go buy $100,000 F250 right now and it tear up on you. So it's anything subject to break, but either one I think would be a decent choice for a CO2 laser. If you're used to light burn and you don't want to have to buy the CO2 Pro version of light burn, then the Hurricane might be a better bet, because it acts more like a diode as far as the controls.
Yeah, I mean, on that point, I believe they have worked with both Reno. The original Reno I know uses, I'm going to forget the name of it now, but it has more of a GRBL style controller, but I believe they have a way of making the Reno Pro work with the core version of Lightburn. But that, I think if you're looking at the Reno, you want to go with a 65 watt just for the size to compare to the others, and then you're kind of getting into the price range of these to consider. I've got the Polar Light. It works well as is. My concerns with it is if the stock laser doesn't, if you feel you need to upgrade the stock laser, there's a lot of things that are integrated that you're going to have to try to bypass, and then it becomes a little bit of a pain. So I wouldn't look at it as a machine you're going to upgrade down the line. If you're wanting to go that route, you're going to want to get more of the standard cabinet style, like the Maker series from OhmTech or similar from Monport or other companies. I haven't had a chance to work with the Atom Stack Hurricane, so I can't speak to that versus my Polar Light, but they're all kind of in that range. I think you're taking on a similar level of slight risk with any one of them as far as the number of problems you may or may not have. Being benchtop units, they tend to have things that are integrated and compartmentalized and such. They're just harder to work on than if you have like that cabinet style CO2. So it really comes down to a space thing. If you're really sold on the space and compact size of the benchtop units, then yeah, you're gonna be looking at those.
Yeah, the CO2 world, there's a lot of variation in what you can and can't get as far as budget goes too. And I don't know if I'm going to get it or not. I was actually kind of shocked they reached out to me because a lot of times, I tell people when they send me machines, if it's a bad machine, I'm not gonna be singing its praises. And the Monport Mega was one of those that it just wasn't what it should have been. And so I was a little concerned that I may never hear from Monport again, but they did reach out to me and ask about the Reno 65, I think it is, which is a very bare bones machine. Then I know Steve has tried it out, and he says that it needs some upgrades to be a top performer, but it's not a bad substitute for the old K40s that everybody used to have.
And I will say with that one, with their Top Wisdom controller and the way they have, that still requires an external water chiller. And you could tell the way they designed the case with the hole that magically fits the airline fitting and the easily disconnected internal air pump, that it's easier to upgrade that one. My one concern that I haven't quite tracked down on that one yet is the tube itself. I'm not sure that it isn't so proprietary as far as its size and dimensions of what will fit in the case, that you might be stuck with getting that strictly from Monport. I haven't done enough digging on that to see if there's an aftermarket one to put in there outside of theirs. So
yeah, I'm gonna drop here's a link. Y'all was asking about the powered USB hubs. These are the ones that I've used. I've got 3 of them right now in operation in my shop, and they work fine. There are, like Steve said earlier, like if you're using, say, like I've got just dropped a set of glasses. Like over here on this USB hub, I've actually got that. I've got 2 cameras running on that hub right now. So depending on the camera and the driver that they use, like I say, I've got the overhead camera right here. It's running on that hub over there. I've also got that Logitech camera right there running on that hub. Now, there are some cameras that if you plug 2 of them into that hub, it'll confuse it. It'll mess it up. You have to turn one of them off or either unplug one of them and plug the other one up. But so far with that one, the Atom Stack camera and that Logitech C990 or whatever seem to be able to play together okay. But I have found that some cameras, I've got another Logitech that if I plug it up on the same port with that Logitech that's over there, neither one of them will work. So just know that with those with those hubs, sometimes, not always, but most of the time, cameras aren't going to play well together if they're plugged into one. But yeah, they're powered USB hubs, and then I use a USB 3 jumper, like a 25 foot USB extension. If you get one that's too small, the conductors on it, the resistance and everything, it's still not going to perform well. The one that I've got is not cheap, but it's a low loss USB cable, so it does a pretty good job.
Yeah, and I've got mine in my store as well. It's a little bit different, but you can hit my link up on my page as well if you want to check that out. It's under the computer accessories or something like that section.
Randall, the last shop vac that I had in operation blew up a couple of months ago. It finally went out on me, and when it went out, I decided to go ahead. I had an extra fan that I had bought, an extra 4-inch VVOR fan, and so I reconfigured it, mostly because the shop vac was just so loud. The shop vac worked as a exhaust fan for the most part, but they're not intended to run for 3 hours at a time, the cheap shop vacs. So when you put one in there, I mean, if you buy a $30 shop vac, first of all, you don't expect it to last very long, but you will destroy them if you use the laser a lot. And so I swapped it out. I've got a 4-inch fan in there.
Yep.
But I mean, if you're in a pinch and you're just getting into it, they work. Just take all the filters out of it and just use it as a fan, basically. It works. It's loud, and you will destroy it over time, but it works.
Oh, let's see here. Trent's asking, have you all seen anything about the F2 Ultra UV? Saw it in a promo from X-Tool at a show overseas. Nope.
I mean, I've heard it exists. That's about the extent of it. Like I said, X-Tool has changed the way they do their stuff. So, and I'm not. Me and them didn't agree on how they do their stuff as far as their contracts and what they expect of the content creators. I didn't feel like it was suitable for my business model, and so therefore I didn't sign their contract. So therefore I don't get X-Tool stuff anymore, or at least I haven't. I'm not going to say I don't. I haven't got any since then. I think they're reserving that for people that did sign their documentation.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're kind of in the same boat. David and I have pushed back on them trying to get us to do too much marketing for them. So my contact hasn't even reached out to me about any of their new equipment this year, as far as machines and such. So, we'll know when you guys know on a lot of this stuff at this point. So, Zentero's asking about the Atom Stack CNC video. When will it be out? They're wanting us to kind of cover some of the Glacier stuff first. So that's what we've been working on. But the CNC will hopefully be sometime this month.
Yeah, they said they've got some parts coming. That they're making dust shoe, a bigger spindle. I think it was an 800 watt. Ain't that what it said?
Was it that big? I don't know that it was an 800.
Hang on, let me look at my
500.
notes. It was a bigger. They're making a bigger spindle. Let me see. I got my.
Yeah, I think they're working on their 65 millimeter mount, and then they were going to do something like a 5 to 700. I don't think it was quite 800.
All right, so 500 watt spindle.
Yeah.
Fourth axis, true fourth axis system powered by its own motor. See, a CV1 dust collector. It's a dual stage woodworking dust collection system. I don't know if that's just it's the way it says. It says dual stage woodworking dust collection system. So
it's probably similar to like the Fox Alien. They've got like a mini cyclone separator and then like a HEPA filter shop vac kind of box attached to it.
And then they've got a FC1 fixture set, versatile clamping and jig system. So, and then what does it say? It's a 65 millimeter adapter also to where it would work with a Makita or some of the other routers. So we're waiting on those to get shipped so that we can include those in the videos. Which I'm kind of shocked because typically they'll send you the machine and then they'll send you a piece at a time. And each time you get a piece, it's like, okay, I'm gonna do another video. So they've told me with the Glacier is closer to I guess being released to the public, and so they wanted me to focus on it first because Adam Stack hammered us. Like they sent us the Glacier, they sent us the CNC, and they sent us what Steve is fixing to show you, all in like a week. And we're like, our heads were spinning. We're like, there's no way we're gonna. I mean, because you've got overload. Because I was sitting in here, no kidding, this past week. I've been running that little laser. I've been having the door open with the Adam Stack Glacier running, and I've had a CNC sitting over there on the table, just chewing away on material. And it gets a little overwhelming. All the machines running all the time. So yeah, we've got some videos coming with some of this gear though.
Not to mention, customer orders.
Yeah. Well, I got my stove covers out for the moment. I'm caught up. I spent, what was it, Thursday, and I spent Thursday and Friday doing stove covers and cutting boards. Got them done. That's when I blew up my Polar in the process. So, yeah, and then not to mention yard work and all that stuff going around too. But I have got it to where I can see my CNC again because it's been covered up for about 2 weeks. And also, there's another machine coming that I saw they've released some information on it on their website. But we've got another, or I know I have, and I'm pretty sure Steve does, another interesting machine coming that will be here in next week? This week? Yeah, this week. So it's gonna be busy.
Did I sign up for something I forgot about?
Yeah, you got to remember. It says you got to sign for it when I deliver it. Your favorite company. You done forgot what you got coming in, bro.
Anything else? I mean, I know there's the.
You got the one coming from Miko.
I don't think I've heard back on that one.
Oh, really?
No.
Huh. I've got a FedEx package incoming with signature required. I'm pretty sure that's who it is. So we'll see.
I think you're thinking wrong, but yeah. So it's these are some of the things we've been talking with people.
Oh no, that may be the Kindle.
These are things from months ago that we talked about, and we're kind of hoping to have them spread out throughout the summer, but summer got a little held back on things. So
yeah.
But anyway, more on that to come. TJ Michael says, I got my first X1C 3 days ago. Did a lot of homework before I bought it. And this printer's fun. Been running for 20 hours a day so far. Well, what about the other 4? You sleeping or something? Bought another one, have hundreds of hours worth print. Yeah, so they do make them pretty easy. And I saw, what was it? I think Micro Center in their ad, they had was it the original X1? They must be closing them out because I don't even think they have that model on Bamboo's site, but they had them marked down to like $9.99. So if you have a Micro Center near you, you might want to check out what they got on some of their older Bamboo models. But yeah, I've got the A1, the A1 Mini, and the P1S. I've been loving all of those for how well they work. And the only times I've had issues has usually been I haven't cleaned the surface, the bed before the print, and then I get adhesion issues, and then it causes problems. But
mine was with filament.
There's a lot of I did have one where the filament got a little needed to be dried. So, but yeah, they can be fun even without having this ability to design your own parts. There's so many sites out there from manufacturers, printables from Prusa, Thingiverse. There's a number of places you can get both free and paid models to work with those with. So I'm glad you're having fun with yours. Hopefully other people are on the fence might find some deals here this season and jump in and enjoy it.
Yeah, the bamboo is awesome. I designed last night. Let me see if I can find it right quick, and I'll throw it on the board where you can see it. It'd be quicker for me to show you on the printing software than it will on anything else. My daughter was renovating. I say renovating. She was working on her room, getting it organized, and she wanted a holder for a skateboard. Now, keep in mind, I don't know that the kid actually uses the skateboard for anything other than decorations. But anyway, she's got a skateboard and she wanted a wall mounted holder for the skateboard. So I designed this in Fusion, and basically it just like you screw it to the wall like that, and then the axle from the skateboard sits in there and it hooks it to the wall. I designed it with this out of PLA. The only thing I may have to end up doing is going back and adding some strengthening, like a little bit more thicker material here, and then interconnect it here with a couple of more extruded pieces. But yeah, I love being able to just, grab the computer and draw something up like this. And that is pretty awesome. And I printed it out last night. It seems to be working okay, but I'm still a little skeptical about whether or not these screw holes are going to be adequate long term. So it's just cool to be able to make stuff like that. If you'd have told me, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, that it would be as simple as it is to just whip up a part and print it out, I would have thought you were crazy. But it is very, very easy these days with the Bamboo Labs and some of the other printers on the market. A lot better than it was with the old one I had.
You got Rich from the Louisiana Hobby Guy stopping by to say hi to us
What's
and
up?
everyone else. Good to see you, Rich. Hopefully the weather's decent down there. We're getting in hurricane season, so the Gulf and the southeast coast get a little hit or miss some of these days.
Yeah, we had a little bit of wind coming out of that way today, matter of fact, but it felt nice. It was like 80 degrees with the wind. It was awesome. Chris, yes, I need to retire to get some stuff done. Believe it or not, I have been turning down way more stuff than I have been taking. But a lot of the companies are companies that I've dealt with in the past that we have, ongoing relationships with, and they're doing things that a lot of the stuff that they're doing are things that we've talked to them. Like I said, me and Steve talked to Adam Stack about this machine here. Was it like a year ago?
I think it was in the winter sometime.
Yeah, it's at least 6 months ago.
Before New Year's.
Yeah. We talked to Adam Stack about this design, and we kind of committed to taking this machine as well. I mean, all three of these machines, but we were under the understanding, like Steve said, that we were going to be getting them in the spring. And here we are, almost in the fall. So sometimes things don't go according to plan. And, at that point we had kind of already committed to looking at the machines, but we got slammed all at once with a whole bunch of gear. Radu is asking, are you guys going to get the XL laser HD1 to play with, 55 watt diode with 20 watt fiber, or 80 watt diode with 60 watt MOPA? Not that I'm aware of. I haven't heard anything from them. Like I said, I don't reach out to companies. They reach out to me. So they haven't reached out. So as far as I know, no. How about you, Steve?
No, I mean, I've been following their stuff and kind of keeping an eye on it, but I'm busy enough with my day job, my family, and other commitments here in the shop already. So I don't generally reach out too often. I mean, when we go to shows and such, we'll talk with a variety of people on things and sometimes make connections there. But yeah, it's kind of we let them come to us for the most part.
Yeah.
But there was Anna Lynn's asking, is there any book you can buy or learn that, or will explain the technological of a laser? I don't know because I haven't looked per se. The problem with some of that is if you're in the hobby market, some of the stuff changes so fast that the core information would probably be somewhat the same, but if you're looking more direct to a specific machine or whatnot, that information is going to kind of rapidly change. And so YouTube is a really good resource. There's a lot of people, David and I, Rich with Louisiana Hobby Guide does a lot of great stuff with Lightburn and other files and some other lasers as well, that are good out there. There, of course, anything on the internet, you got to filter through it. Try to find people that are not just trying to sell you something per se. It can be difficult. And there are some people who, anybody can put a video up there, whether it's correct information or not. I'm not always right. I try to make sure I'm fairly accurate and try not to speak to things that I don't know about. But there are other people I've watched videos or listened to information and you kind of go, that's wrong. So yeah, I don't know of any books.
That's my videos.
Well, I've stopped watching. No. So yeah, I'm not 100%. I haven't looked for any books out there, but there may be. But I feel the information that's available through YouTube, once you filter it and find a few people, and some of it's too just the teaching style of the specific people. That's why, while we try not to like completely duplicate content, sometimes Clack and I'll have similar content because I might explain it slightly different than he does.
And you look at a lot of times too. You look at it from a different lens than I do, because everybody looks at, like, some folks look at it, I want to make a bunch of money. Some folks, I just want to have fun. Some folks, I want to be able to do complex things. Other people are like, I just want it to be simple. So there's all times of different variables that you have to consider when picking a machine, picking a software, because sometimes picking the software determines which machine you need to pick. So there's a good bit to it, but like Steve said, I think YouTube is a very good resource. I'm a little biased on what channels are best, but there's a lot of good resources out there. That's how I learned most of what I know, and then the rest of it was just trial and error and messing up stuff.
Yeah, if you really want to have fun, go ask AI some questions, and sometimes in 2 or 3 questions, it will completely contradict itself.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
Rich is saying Sabrina Media explains the science of lasers. He's a PhD. And so, yeah. Oh, yeah. He's got, I've watched, I think he's the British guy. He's been doing this I remember watching some of his videos 10 years ago when I was getting into my CO2, and he's really good. I can't remember his channel name, like Sar Bar Productions or something like that. I'll have to do a little searching for it. But yeah, that's a really good one if you want to know more of the actual like in-depth science and technical details of it.
Petrie's Workshop says maybe we can help. Having issues with a Laguna EX 150 watt CO2. My circles don't seem to be closing their loops, creating a step when it's done. It appears to be along the X-axis. To me, that sounds like maybe a linkage somewhere might be a little loose and slipping. I'm not familiar with the Lagunas, but I think they're very similar to Thunders and some of the other bigger CO2s as far as the mechanics from what I've seen.
Yep.
So you've probably got a grub screw on a gear or sprocket or something that's a little loose, maybe. And check and see if you go really, really slow, if you can make it complete a circle. But if you go faster, it doesn't, because if it's anything other than something loose, chances are if you go really slow, it will be able to make a circle, or at least make a closer to a circle. But if you see variation in it, then it's probably something slipping. If it does it, no matter the speed, then there's a good chance that it's something that's either out of square or jumped a tooth or whatever. But my bet would be there's a timing linkage or a grub screw on a sprocket or pulley somewhere that's loose on it. Assuming that it hasn't been doing that and you haven't moved the machine or anything. Now if you just got through moving it, there's a possibility you got it out of square, you got something shifted. You said you've in the next comment that you had checked the square, so I'm assuming that's not it. But Yeah, I would check. I would check the little grub screws on the sprockets and stuff where the belts run. What do you think? Anything else you could think of?
Yeah, I would eliminate any mechanical issues first. Make sure that it's everything's tight and nothing's slipped or out of square. If or if something's interrupted, that sometimes those gantries can just, if one side skips a tooth, things start looking oblong or not completing circles. Outside of that, you can then run a XY calibration as well to check that each path is going the right distance, and make adjustments there. I did drop a link in there for Sarbar Multimedia. That's the physicist, the PhD that Rich was talking about. Now it gets very technical, but if you really want to tune up your laser and understand what and why and really some of the limitations and capabilities of them, it's an interesting channel to go through. A lot of content out there.
Yeah, Petrie said take a few days off, so don't get mad. Hey, I get it. But I will tell you that those little grub screws are probably as far as like my laser's running fine and all of a sudden it's out of square. I had one did it the other day. I thought I had a material collision because of the way it looked when the cut went around. Because the engraved perfect, it went to cut and then the cut was just all messed up. And I'm like, man, it done hit the material on me. But what come to find out, it was one of the little grub screws on like where the connecting rod, the timing rod, it goes from one side to the other. It's stepper in the middle, and then you got two rods that go to each belt. Well, one of those little grub screws was just loose enough that under the right amount of tension, it was slipping like just enough to make it a millimeter off. It would slip, but then when it go the other way, it would slip the other way. And so wound up taking that little grub screw out, putting just a little drip of blue Loctite on it and putting it back in there, and haven't had any problem with it. So, but my go-to is always mechanical first, unless you've like changed something in the computer system or the controller. It's typically going to be something got loose somewhere. Unless you, like I said, now if you just hauled your laser across the country in the back of a U-Haul truck, then it could be other things. But typically, machine just sitting in the corner minding its own business isn't going to get knocked out of whack.
Jerry mentions had two material test results, one at 17,000 millimeters a minute at 70% and 22,000 millimeters a minute at 100%. But when applied to my object to engrave, Lightburn said the 22,000 would take longer. Why? So that has to do with the acceleration and deceleration. When you go faster, and mind you, depending on the size of your object, it might not actually get up to that speed and back down, but it has to go. It's going to engrave the distance of the material, but then it's going to go beyond it to be able to slow down, stop, turn around, and then accelerate back up to where it's at speed when it hits the object again. The faster you're going, depending on your laser, it's going to have more distance and more time to slow down, make that direction change. And so, yes, there are cases where engraving at a higher travel speed will take longer due to that overscan of the object. So it is something to pay attention to and look at, and can affect your times.
Yeah, that overscan too is typically like 5% or whatever. It could be, it could be that when you change the setting, it's automatically changing your overscan up. But yeah, I've actually had that happen. And it's confusing because you're like, wait a minute, I'm going faster, but it's going to take longer. But then you think about it, you're like, it's actually having to travel further because of the overscanning too. So it's crazy. It's wild. That's why it's always a good idea to preview before you hit the send button, just to make sure.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna I see I'm getting about 15-20 minutes behind on comments, so I'm gonna
I've had to bounce to the front,
jump back ahead. So if we've missed yours, go ahead and drop it in again. We'll try to catch up with it. But try not to get too far behind because then we miss some of the others.
Brian said that you'll explain the technical details, and I'll tell you how pretty it looks. Hey, I got news for you, Brian. Now, Steve can testify to this. As far as the mechanics of these things, I'm pretty slick at troubleshooting mechanical stuff. But it's my KISS approach. Keep it simple, stupid. Like I start with the simplest things and then escalate to the more complicated things. So it has its advantages.
The problem is David's opinion on whether something is pretty is very skewed by the fact of whether it is orange or not. So I feel he's a little biased.
I do have biases. I've never argued that. And I find the older I get, the more biases I develop.
Just a grumpy old man sitting on his porch.
That's right.
LaDonna's saying, about to buy my first laser. If I get a CO2 laser and use it in the garage in Texas, will the heat be a problem? Up to 110 degrees Fahrenheit on many days during the summer. I mean, part of that, I mean, me being from the north and not being susceptible to heat stroke, yeah, I would say it's a problem. But
it's a problem for the operator.
Yeah. No. So if you're looking at a CO2 laser, you really want to look at something that has active cooling through a compressor. A lot of the benchtop units and even some of the smaller cabinet ones will have an integrated or a separate one that is just a radiator, and they're not going to do you any favors, especially in that heat. If you have one that has a proper, a compressor-based, refrigerant-based chiller, that's going to help keep your laser cool. You can still run into some issues with heat. You can run into issues in Texas. You're probably still a little humid and such. And if you have like a cold morning or a cold evening and you're dealing with temperature changes, you can get some condensation issues. We get that up here from time to time as well, just due to the humidity that we have around here. So it's not going to be as bad as, say, the colder temperatures, but you will want to kind of monitor the temperature of your water cooling on that tube. That's going to be your biggest issue there.
Agreed. Yeah, 110 is pretty brutal. So you're definitely going to want something with active cooling, or just air condition the place. That's what I had to wind up doing.
I mean, that'll help the operator as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Elo's asking, would too low of an overscan cause at Petrie's workshop circle problem? No. I'm assuming that since he's saying he's making circles and they're not connecting, that he's in line mode, and typically the overscan is more of a engraving thing than it is the circles. That shouldn't be causing the problem in line mode. You have acceleration and deceleration, but it doesn't overscan necessarily. It actually will slow down, and as it slows down, unless you have constant power turned on, as it slows down, it'll actually reduce the power output to keep from overburning at the start and the end of the engraves. That's why a lot of times if you do accidentally turn on constant power, you'll notice when you're engraving, you'll have like a dark section on one end and a dark section on the beginning, and then the middle will be a different tone. That's because the laser is going to like 100% right out of the gate instead of revving up and then revving back down, revving up, revving back down. It just comes out of the gate at 100%. So, but now my money is on a grub screw. There's a grub screw somewhere. It's like a little 2-cent grub screw somewhere on one of those pulleys where those belts attach that has backed off ever so slightly, and it's slipping just enough to cause a problem, but not enough to be able to detect it when you turn it by hand and try to find it. That's my bet.
Thor's 421's asking, in Lightburn, I use the fire button to help with framing, but it seems to have a mind of its own as how far as how long it stays on. Any ideas how or why or how to set a time? I forget that it's a static amount, but it's a safety feature that they don't want it to be just on. What you might want to do is go into your device settings and actually turn on laser on when framing, and then set that to 0.5% or so, depending on your diode. And then anytime you hit the frame button, it will light up the diode and do the framing for you. But then it'll turn it off when you're done. And if you just hit frame again, it'll turn it back on and whatnot. You can just enable the laser fire button and do it manually, but having it turn on and off during the frame operation with that extra toggle will hopefully help you out without having to worry about it turning off or on.
Yes, it beats the heck out of trying to do it manually. And that's in your settings for your device. You can also set it to frame continuously if you have your computer a good distance from your laser and you want to have an opportunity to move the material and get it lined up with the frame. You can select the frame continuously and it'll sit there in frame until you go back to the computer and hit stop. That's really handy. Like when you have a machine that's like over there and you're over here, that's really handy because then it allows you to make those small adjustments with the material as opposed to having to go over to your computer, bump it 3 millimeters to the left and then frame again and then walk back. So a lot of times frame continuously is a very valuable tool. Now, if you're sitting there to where you're looking over in your laser at your computer, it's probably not that big a deal. But like when I'm testing this one right here, I've got it set to frame continuously so that I can move the material to it. And also because I don't have a camera over there, so I can't get that very close alignment just by placing the material and taking a picture. So I do frame continuously. I'm positioning my material where I want it. I hit the OK button once I'm done. Then I hit the focus button and then I send it. So, I think we both click different ones.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead with yours.
This is a continuation. It says the new version of Lightburn requires me to turn the laser on for framing before the pointer laser will come on. I don't view it as an improvement over the previous version. I don't know what you're referring to because the settings are still there. It's still, and let me show you what we're working with here. That hasn't changed. I don't know if it's maybe your settings didn't transfer, but here we go. Well, it's not even, I got the screen. I got to do the whole screen. Hang on. That was janky. Share screen, entire screen. There we go. It wasn't showing my sub window. But when you go into your settings, they did move some of the settings around. So maybe you got lost on that. But when you're in your machine, you've got your machine selected. Go over here to laser tools and go down to device settings. And under basic settings right here, you're going to have to enable laser fire button. And then you got to click this little box that says laser on when framing. Depending on the output of the machine, you're going to have to put a percentage here. Typically like 0.5, 0.75. If it's a really tiny one, you may have to, go different with that. But that's pretty much it. If you want it to enable the frame continuously, where's that at? I can't remember where this is. I moved it now. There it is. The frame continuously is right here. And that enables it to where it will literally sit there and frame until you stop it. So it's a good little thing to have if your machine's kind of away from you. But you got enable laser fire button, and then laser on when framing. Those are the two that you need to be able to utilize that function. And just like with the Glacier, if you look at the Glacier device settings, see, I've got it set to frame continuously, and then I've got the laser on 1%, which is a little bright for that machine. We'll turn that down just a little bit there. Or wait a minute. I think this was the one that it wouldn't fire any lower. Never mind. Let's don't change that right now. But yeah, so that's what you do. And I strongly recommend using the blue laser to frame with.
So yeah, he's talking about the settings are still there, but the red laser will not turn on for framing unless the laser for framing setting is turned on. So I'll be honest, anything that's had an offset framing laser, I have turned off and don't use. I'd rather use the actual beam coming out of the laser for accuracy. And sometimes some of those too, if you get to the edges, they won't be able to frame because they're offset.
You lose work area by using that offset laser because you like most of them have like a 16 millimeter offset, and so you can't. And sometimes you'll frame something, it'll frame fine, and then when you engrave it, you'll hit the rails and mess your engrave up. So I do not use anything that has a framing offset because I want to know that the design that I have set up, I want to know that that laser can move the complete boundary of that work area, that engrave. And if you have an offset, then there's a chance that you could frame it and it framed perfect. And then when you send the job, you're going to either hit the limit switches or you're going to crash into the rails. So I don't know. I don't do that.
All right, let's see. Kevin's asking, while I resurrected my D1 and it has been working well all weekend, I'm really looking at getting a 40 watt just to speed things up. S1, we create 45 or other suggestions. Funds are a bit tight. Well, if you're looking at the S1,
I know
that's kind of the upper end of the market. The we create 45. We create is kind of hit or miss with their quality control on their machines, and with some of their design, especially on the 45, with the lack of a cable chain on top, I can't recommend that machine. I just, it's, some people have great working ones, but there's been a lot of people reporting weird issues with theirs, and I just feel I wouldn't recommend it to someone for that. The Atom Stack Craft now offers a 40 watt module. I don't know what that's running for, but that's kind of a nice, it's similar to the S1, but I think a little more budget. What else is out there? Does Longer have a 40 watt in there? Because they're kind of a good budget.
Yeah, but it's going to be an open frame. The Longer B1 40 watt is a really good machine, automatic air assist and everything. It's still got a fixed Z with the thumb screw, but it's the 40 watt B1 is a beast. It takes the same cover lenses as the Atom Stacks and a lot of the other machines. It comes with a built-in air assist that works great. They did have early on, they had a problem with the orifice hole, the exit pupil on the cone being too big, if you remember, in the early B1s, but they adjusted that when they went to the 40 watt. And so far as I know, all of the 40 watts shipped with a smaller opening in the cone, and the air assist worked much better. I actually have had the 30 and the 40 watt. I don't currently have either one of them in the shop. 40 watt machine, I mean, the Aesmer P3 48 watt is enclosed. It would be a good one. It's a little pricey, but I don't think it's as much as the S1 would be. And if you're familiar with, light burn, then it might be a good one to look at. I would say right now, the Aesmer P3, the Atom Stack Craft, as far as enclosed machines, those are two good ones. Open, I mean, Atom Stack A40 Pro, the Longer B1 40 watt, and then is it Sculptfun? Didn't they come out with a 40 watt too? They make decent machines.
They got their SF9. They're still open frame. You got to get an enclosure for it. But yeah, I did check out their SF9 a while ago, and it's a pretty decent laser. It's a switchable 40-20 kind of setup. So there are a number of them out there. Just kind of, I guess, depends on what are your kind of requirements as far as enclosed or not, or other features or not. So, and I also don't know what your timeline is. the new Alien cell that's coming out. They have a 20 and a 40 watt. That one is looking very interesting, and I'm liking it because of the little larger work area. 24 by 18. It's getting into that kind of target size for me. But that's on Kickstarter, and those won't start shipping until I think December-ish. I'm not sure. I mean, they might be earlier, might not, but
yeah. Designs by Hand LLC says, just got my Mirror 9 and new to Lightburn. Can you show me how to set up a material test? Also, how do you know where to start with minimum and max settings? Well, you can ballpark it depending on the output of the machine. You can ballpark it and get close, but the speed and power tests are the best way to find out. A good rule of thumb when testing new materials, it's better to go too fast than too slow as far as safety goes, because you don't want to burn something up or catch your machine on fire.
Well, another thing too is in the latest version of Lightburn, they do start at the lower power, higher speed and work down to higher power, lower speed. So if you're monitoring it and things start looking like they're getting scorchy or they are on fire, you can stop it rather than it, starting out at, the world is on fire. I think we both have videos out on it. I know I have it's a couple years old, but it's basically the same. There are a few additional options in Lightburn now for material tests. But yeah, definitely. The other thing is they do have some baseline ones. I think it says like a CO2 cut test and engrave test. I think they kind of go to extremes on that. But what I would do is, AI is a great tool. Go into like Google search and just type in what are approximate laser settings to cut such and such material with a 90 watt CO2 laser or a 40 watt diode laser. It's going to get you into the ballpark, and then you can base your material test settings on that. Maybe go a little bit below and a little bit above it, and then that should hopefully help get you at least in the ballpark to where you can adjust it from there.
Yeah. But always stay in the room with your machine when you're doing material tests. I mean, you should never leave the room anytime your laser is running, but especially during material tests. If you do have to take a bathroom break, pause it. It has a pause button on the material test. Pause it and then come back. Because material test, most of the fires that I have started, which have been little fires, I haven't burned up any lasers, but most of the fires that I have started was either material test or doing something that I mean, like when you start a material test or you start a burn and you're holding your spray bottle, you probably shouldn't be doing whatever it is you're doing. Well, like the other day when I was trying to cut a 2x4 with this 120 watt, I mean, I cut it half in two. It just didn't quite go all the way through.
Yeah. Our Ballard Designs, our friend Ryan says, evening, everyone. Hope everyone has had a touchdown day. Well, my team doesn't play at all tomorrow, although our Gophers really beat up on Northwestern from Louisiana there. Put a little smackdown on them. But I will have to say, I was a little happy that the Packers beat the Lions today.
I didn't.
About the only time you'll hear me saying I just cheering for the Packers.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you who played what today. I've been in here working all day. I don't do a whole lot of that. I did go watch a football game Friday night.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, with my daughter's band, and they were losing right at the end of the game, and it was like I don't know exactly how much time was left because the school's apparently their scoreboard had a short in it, or either somebody was kicking the cables under the table in the press box. But the clock kept going out on the scoreboard. But they threw they pushed it down to the goal line, but they were like goal line and nothing with fourth down, 10 seconds left in the game. And they threw a little reverse pop pass over in the corner and won the game with it. And oh my gosh, it was unbelievable. I was like, they've lost this one. And all of a sudden it was like, nope, never mind. They won it. So it was an interesting football game, but that's the only games I watch anymore.
Someone was messing with the clock and cheating for you.
Well, the referee was having to call out the time because the clock just kept. I mean, it was their scoreboard.
Perimeter alert.
Well, maybe Ryan can loan them his scoreboard and get that working for him.
Yeah, well, I have some video of the audio of the announcer. I don't like to make fun of people, but this guy had way too many commas in his vocabulary. Like every word, there was a comma after it, and it was funny. Like me and Brandy were rolling, listening to the guy doing the announcing.
Yeah,
I ain't too sure he wouldn't like up there throwing them back in the press box.
Blue Snow Manic is asking, is there any way to get the WeCreate Lumos to do bidirectional? The only way to do it is to run it in Lightburn. WeCreate, they apparently don't trust their gear. And so all their lasers are stuck in unidirectional engraving, and it's ridiculous. It should not be that way. Every other laser can do especially a Galvo style like the Lumos should be able to do bidirectional. So you gotta use Lightburn if you wanna get the most out of that machine.
Did they get the Lumos to working in Lightburn yet?
I don't know.
I haven't tried mine in Lightburn. I just use their software because it typically doesn't work in Lightburn.
Yeah. Rich says Alien Cell says shipping in late October. So wow, that's gonna come up fast. So maybe something if you're looking at lasers, that's something to consider as well.
Yeah. Sharky says either of y'all engraved on slate, and obviously you must be new to the channel. But yes, we both have done extensive engraving with slate over the past few years.
Here's two I did this week with the Omtex Solus Duo. This one was I set it up for 20 passes. Well, let's get in focus there, but stopped it because it was getting really deep. And so, but yeah, these are just some sample ones I did with that, using the IR, the fiber laser on that one. I did a whole comparison video using the X-Tool F1 a couple of years ago now, where I did a lot of tests between raw slate, sanded slate, sanded or raw slate with a coating, and then sanded slate with a finish as well. Then also engraving between blue diode as well as the IR to kind of give some ideas of what's capable between the two wavelengths and such. A lot of people don't like doing the sealing of them because it does cut down on the absorbency. I mean, slate does have some absorbent materials to them, but not, they're also used as shingles, so they're not 100% porous. But it does create a little bit more contrast when engraving. So, but yeah, there's some videos out there on my channel, or I try to throw that in relevant machine tests as well. So,
yeah, Sharky says it's fairly new. Yeah, like I said, we're glad to have you, but we do lots of machine testing and different materials and stuff like that. So if you go to Steve's channel or mine, either one, you can literally go to the little search box up there on the videos and type in slate. And then a lot of times too, on most, not always, I've gotten to where I don't do it as much because it's like, okay, it's another 20-watt laser. This is what it'll do to slate. But a lot of the videos that we do, a lot of times we use slate. It's one of those cheaper mediums that can, that a lot of people like to use because it's pretty versatile. You can do lots of different cool things with it. But yeah, Steve's got a really cool dedicated slate video that might help.
Slate coasters. If you can find a good like regional theme, whether it, like up here, a lot of people, there's a bunch of lakes. A lot of people have cabins on them. If you can do an engraving with maybe the lake and then put a star or a little cabin where theirs is at and maybe their name, that's a nice customized option to offer people. And then, tie them together with like some sort of coaster holder. I've done a couple videos on some options there. That's a really good way to get some business with some people, and kind of get some experience with your laser. I mean, so far slate tile is fairly inexpensive. You can usually find them for about 50 cents to $1 a piece, depending on how and where you source them. And oftentimes, if you offer them bundles of 4, I see them going for $20 to $25, depending on if they're something standard or custom engraved. And then, like I say, upsell it with a little coaster holder. It's a good way to get some stuff going with your laser if you're looking to do it as a business, or they make wonderful gifts for people. So
thank you there, Melissa. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Melissa. We always appreciate it. Never ask for it, but always appreciate it.
Well, Jack said he does the 4x8 slate for wall hanging signs. Yeah, I've done some of those. I've actually got a pack of them over there. But here lately, I haven't been doing as much of that stuff. That's like a lot of the holiday stuff that I do, like for Christmas and stuff like that. I've got one that I made that has like the Cleckley's on it, and it has like our names. And I did it and put it in the house. But the bigger slate panels are pretty neat too. You can get them actually that already have a string through them and have holes drilled in them and all that kind of stuff too. Matter of fact, I think I got. Yeah. I may have threw it away. I had one. Man, I got so much junk.
Yeah, Sharky, a 10-watt laser is perfectly fine for engraving slate tile. If you, as a matter of fact, that's what I used on that X-Tool F1 is a 10-watt blue diode and then a 2-watt IR. But it doesn't take a whole lot to engrave slate with those, so you should have a lot of fun with that.
I knew I had one of those around here somewhere.
Ryan, we're going to hold you that. It says the scoreboard will rise again. So
that's not what I'm hearing.
Will the forklift rise again too?
If the scoreboard ain't careful, it'll get run over by the forklift.
Yeah, I suppose it's more of will the forklift stop when it moves forward or something.
Yeah. The forklift ain't got a problem going. It's stopping. It's got a problem with.
Yeah, so like with the slate tiles, if you want, every so often when I'm walking through Michael's, they'll have random stuff on clearance, and one time I was in there, I don't know if they were a special type or meant for a holiday or something, but they had some of their larger, 8x12 or so.
Yeah, that's what that was.
Tiles on clearance, and I was able to snag them for like $5-6 or something like that. They're normally like 10 or 12 or something like that. So it's good to walk through those and just kind of keep an eye out for some of those closeout things. You can find some good material or sample stuff to work with and such, or even just things. I've had both Michael's and Harbor Freight have a variety of stainless steel tumblers that they'll put on clearance or sale every so often, and you can snag some of those for a few dollars each too. So it's worth wandering through those stores sometimes just to see what they have.
Yeah, I love perusing the sale aisles and the discount carts and stuff. That's where I get a lot of my slate, because they'll have those coasters. Like, you may be able to buy a pack of them for like $5. It's like, wow, that's like $1 a coaster.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Never know what you might find.
Anyway.
So we're an hour and 39 minutes into it. If anybody has any other questions, if we've missed your questions, don't be offended. We have a hard time keeping up with the questions sometimes. But if you'll ask it again and throw some question marks, if you're referring to us, we'll try to get to it if possible. But if, like I said, just keep trying if we don't see you. Rob's asking, does the LaserPecker 5 use the regular version of Lightburn?
Yep. Yeah, you don't need the Pro for that, because that's still a GRBL type device.
Yep. I don't think I ever used Lightburn with mine. I know you did. I just used their app.
Early on they were still working on their device profiles for it, because a lot of those they have to work in the right macros and such to switch between the blue or the IR. So, but they've since come out with better profiles for it. So I definitely need to fire that one back up again with the latest Lightburn.
Well, I know you've probably seen this, Steve, but have you seen what's on their website?
I have. They're jumping into the enclosed diode laser market.
Yes, sir. 60 watt, 40 watt, 2 watt, or a 20 watt, according to this. So that'll be coming out pretty soon. Some pretty impressive, claims, whether or not they live up to it or not. Modules, look pretty clean. Looks like they borrowed a few design features from other machines, possibly, but hey. So coming soon. Got another one. It's. I think we're fixing to see a lot of machines lining up trying to get a piece of this, holiday season this year, because they're coming out of the woodwork.
Well, yeah. I mean, they got to hurry up though.
Yeah. Eddie Cat's asking best 55 watt desktop laser CO2. That depends, in my opinion. What say ye, Steve?
Well, yeah, I mean, it really depends in a number of ways. If you're looking for budget, this Omtech Polar Light seems to find a nice balance between cost, enough features to be functional and not so smart that it gets in trouble with itself. And it works well with Lightburn. The Monport Reno series is decent as well, although now that the Polar Light came out, I think it's probably a better bang for the buck as far as features to cost. If you're willing to pay a lot more, I would start looking at, I guess it also depends on what you consider a desktop laser. Because technically the Maker 25 I have, which is more of a cabinet style, is considered a desktop one. It's just taller. Kind of the same thing with the Thunderbolt. It would be considered a desktop laser. And I think that one's a really good laser. It's not, it doesn't quite have the working area. Although they have, they have like the Bolt Pro. Has that one got a little larger working area? I forget.
The Thunder?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a bit bigger, but it's not. It's still not a really big machine. Let me see what I'm wanting to say. It's still a 32. I think 32. I think it's a 32 wide. The Thunderbolt Pro. Because I think it's a Thunderbolt Pro 32. I think is what it's called. I've been looking at them because I want to get me a good CO2 for doing tumblers. The Bolt Pro 32. Yeah, now it starts out at 14,000. Wow. Oh, that stings. Let's see. Bolt Pro 32. Yeah, it's 32 by 20. I was right. So the Bolt is a 20 by 12. The Pro 32 is a 32 by 20. The Bolt Pro 22 is a 22 by 15. So yeah, see that 32 by 20 Bolt Pro would actually, I'm pretty sure from what I remember looking at, I'm gonna have to check with Brett over at Brett's Laser Garage because I know he's got one. But I'm thinking I could set a stove cover over in that Bolt Pro 32 because I'm looking at 30.5 by 22.5, but I'm not engraving the full 22.5. I just need spillover inside the cabinet.
Yeah, I mean, if money's no object and we're talking about best laser, I mean, you also have like the Aeon series. They've got theirs, but you're talking 10 grand on up. I'm pretty sure for that new anyway. But that when you say best, if money's no object, I don't know if you're in Texas or Missouri and won the Powerball.
Yeah, so I'm still barking up the tree of Omtech currently. I would love to get a Thunder, but I don't know. I mean, I'm not one of those that buys brand new cars either, so I'm kind of frugal. I have actually found a couple of Omtechs on Marketplace. I hope Ryan's not listening. And I've considered because I'm like, if something's wrong with it, with the knowledge that I have on them, there's not much I couldn't fix as long as it's working and it's a good deal. So I don't know. I don't know where I'm going to go, but after retirement, I may invest in something a little bigger for a little faster productivity, because when I retire from my full-time job, then it's going to be a little more dependent on making as much money as possible out here. So I may move some machines around and change some stuff up to try to increase production. So we'll see. Hobo says other content creators are claiming the diode industry is dying as a whole. What do you think? I think dying is a bit harsh. Evolving, changing, just like every other market, every other industry, I think. There are a bunch of different random companies out there that jumped on the bandwagon, but you've got a few companies, or I say a few, you've got quite a few companies that have kind of been around for 3 or 4 years that I don't see them going anywhere anytime soon. The only one that I think is kind of like losing their way, that once was one of the name brands, is Ortour. Something has shifted with their company, because they used to be like one of the better machines on the market, and now it's kind of like they lost their way, but they're coming back, but they can't get a good footing. But other than that, most of the companies that me and Steve deal with that have been around for a few years, I mean, they seem to be doing pretty decent. They seem to be innovating, coming up with new ideas and new ways of doing things, new marketing schemes, new product lines, diversifying a little bit. So I don't know that I'd say the industry as a whole. Will there be some companies go away? Yeah, sure. There always is. I mean, anybody seen a Studebaker dealership lately? I mean, it happens. At one time, Studebaker was one of the biggest brands of automobile on the planet. Now, they're just a page in history. Kodak invented the digital camera. Anybody own a Kodak digital camera? I mean, things happen, things change. So, but I'm enjoying the heck out of the innovations and the things that they're doing. It's fun. So, what's your thoughts, Steve? Where do you stand on this?
I think diode lasers have opened up the hobby / the ability to own a laser in anyone's workshop. And so I don't think it's going away by any means. I think it's, there was a little bit of a rush on it. It kind of timed well with COVID, and a lot of people stuck at home with more time and money than they knew what to do with it in some cases. And so they bought a lot. So I think you're seeing, some of that, people, it's kind of like the treadmill and the other things. They buy it and they think they'll use it, and all of a sudden they don't. And you see some of them out on marketplace and other people pushing innovation because they are using them and such. So I don't think the industry as a whole is dying. There's always going to be companies that come and go. There's always going to be smaller companies that spin up and then disappear. And there's going to be large companies that make mistakes. They make the wrong shift. They time it wrong. They have all it takes is one bad machine to kill your reputation, or a series of failures and bad customer service or something. So yeah, I don't think it's dying. I don't think it's going anywhere. I think you'll see. We have been seeing some companies fading and others coming up. So yeah, but I don't see it going away. But the players may change.
Yeah, absolutely.
Papa Ragu was asking, what's the easiest way to put your affiliation on Amazon so you can get credit? Got to help you with your retirement fund. Really just using any of our links on any of our videos. We'll do that. Otherwise, both of us on our websites have a listing of people we work with, and usually the links to the core one. I'll put mine out there. If Clack wants to put his as well, you can go there and look at the various things. So I have my Etsy shop listed there and the Amazon store. With Amazon, once you click on a link, That affiliate referral is good for, I think, 24 hours. So if you click on that, or you click on one of the items we have linked and you shop for other things, it generally works. Not everything on Amazon qualifies for an affiliate commission, and some of them are higher commission, some are lower. It's something we have out there because it does help us. We try not to be too pushy about it, but we do appreciate that. Hey, if you're going to make a purchase there, we'd love to get the referral and take a little bit of Bezos' money and send it our way instead of just all going to him. So definitely appreciate people using those. But, I always try to strive to make sure that it's information first and hopefully helping you make better decisions first. And if that helped you out and you want to use one of my links to give me a kickback, I'd appreciate it. But by no means do I ever want you to feel obligated to do that. So.
Yeah. Like I said, I dropped mine down there, but if you can literally just go to Google and type in the Clack Shack, shop, and it will take you to my affiliate page, which is basically just my shopping links. There's also in that shop tab, there's my merch. So if you want to get yourself an orange shirt, you can, and some other stuff in there as well. But yeah, like Steve said, we don't push the affiliate stuff as much, but it is nice. It does help. And as I am retiring and using this as more of an income rather than just hobby money, it'll be appreciated even more. So, but yeah, it's good stuff. Good stuff. But I appreciate it. And if you want to take my Amazon link and make it your shortcut to Amazon, feel free. I'm good with that. I'm sure anybody that has Amazon links would not mind the same. But yeah.
Forget Me Not Woodcrafts is asking, have either of you ever had an enclosed laser with a built-in camera that Lightburn would not recognize? And if so, is there a known workaround? I have an email into the manufacturer, but waiting for them. I'm trying to remember. I don't know. Some of them, most of them that I've worked with, luckily have a second USB cable, but some of them, like the We Create and others, it's combined. And sometimes that takes a bit more of a specialized driver or device profile from the
what machine is it? That would help.
So yeah, knowing what machine it is would help. The thing to check, if you're on Windows, open up your device manager and check under cameras to see if things are listed there. That at least will tell you if Windows itself is seeing it or not. Generally, most of these are just using a basic camera, USB camera driver, and it's nothing too fancy. But some of the integrated ones where they're using the same USB cable and combining it with the laser itself get a little tricky.
A Flux. I'm not familiar with them. That's probably a lot of times if they have their own proprietary software, it's a matter of the way that Lightburn communicates with the laser. It doesn't see that piggyback signal from the camera in that data stream. Like We Create had that issue in the beginning. They did some firmware changes and wound up fixing it. But a lot of the machines do that. The card somewhere in that machine, I will tell you this, more than likely there's a USB port on the controller for the machine, and the camera is probably just plugged into it. I have found that with several machines that I've had here. And sometimes you can just unplug it from the board and plug it into an extension cable, and you can plug it directly into your computer. But yeah, that Flux, I'm pretty sure that's going to be due to the controller. I don't know that you're going to be able to find a workaround for that. But it's not a machine that I've ever had in my shop, so I can't say for sure. Jerry Richardson says that after my countdown hit 0, change the caption to days until a bigger shop. Well, the problem with that is, Jerry, I've got to make the money first because I have worked really hard to get myself to where I don't owe anybody money. And so I don't want to have to borrow money to build the shop. So it's going to be a savings account kind of thing. I'm going to be saving up money. And when I do get to the point where I want to build a shop, I'll pay for a slab, pay for a building. You know what I mean? I can't in retirement create myself debt. That way, if something was to happen, I don't want to have any loans to have to fault out on. It's one thing if I have to stop building on my shop. It's another thing if I can't make a payment if something were to happen. So if I can save up enough money and we can make this thing, make a go at it and get that money in the bank, then I definitely will be building me a bigger shop, a better insulated shop as well as bigger, because this thing was never intended to be used the way that it is. So yeah, he says it works with their software, so it's going to be a controller configuration thing. He said it works fine with their software. Unfortunately, your options are figure out a way of bootlegging that one or add another camera, more than likely. Because a lot of those companies don't want you using somebody else's software. And if you do, they're probably going to tell you, oh, we don't support that software. So,
yep.
Yeah, John. Yeah, well, I've kind of got 1 foot in making and 1 foot in content creation. And either one of those is kind of like having your foot in quicksand. It could just leave you at any moment. So that's one reason why me and my wife have both agreed. And the truth of the matter is I don't want to have to go back and get a real job. And so if I go get a bunch of debt and then like my revenue dips for some reason, like if we have a situation where nobody buys anything from me and nobody watches my videos, now I've got debt. I got to go get a job. You know what I mean? If I don't have debt, then I can actually live off of that little check that comes in and do some handyman work around the neighborhood and be okay. So, he's saying, I think they're saying they were at LBX. Yeah, I've never seen the machine. I've heard of it, and I think I've seen it on the internet, but I've never like seen one in person. Got to play with it, because I like to play with them and take them apart and look at the insides of them, see what makes them tick and that kind of thing. I've never had my hands on one of theirs. Like me and Steve will send each other pictures of the inside of a laser. Like, you ever seen the inside of this chiller? You ever seen the inside of this chiller? Oh, look, there's actually a compressor in here, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, Jack, I remember some of those early Kodak digital cameras, but Kodak's still alive, well, making a lot of film. And the film cameras, there's been a small resurgence of people with interest in them. And so it's still around. And they had multiple booths at CES. So
yeah, they still do some stuff with that. Luckily, the nostalgic stuff came back, but I still think their CEO and their board was probably hitting themselves in the head, seeing Nikon and Canon and all these other companies get as big as they got off of digital photography. But,
yep.
Greg says, does your shop have water leaks from rainstorms? Is the roof in good condition? Greg, believe it or not, and I don't know how, because I am not a roofer. I built this whole building. I built by myself, my hands. There's never been a contractor in this shop. I did, however, have to have a few friends come over. When I put this big 16-foot roll-up door over here, I had to use my tractor, and I had to have a few friends come over to help me put the door up at the top of the hole. But other than that, me and my wife and Klein and my brother-in-law, Casey, have done all the work in this building. Well, and my other brother-in-law hooked up my mini split for me. But yeah, this building was not intended to be what it is. But no, I don't have I've never had any problems with the roof. When I built this building, I got the real heavy gauge metal, like commercial grade metal roofing. That's what's on the top and on the outside of the building. And luckily, I haven't even had to change the screws out or anything. So far, so good. I said that. I'll have a water leak tomorrow. You watch. I'll come in here to be a puddle in the floor. But so far, I don't have any problems with that.
Dennis is asking, do we feel like CO2 lasers are the future of laser engraving and cutting? I mean, that's funny because, it's been 10 years since I got my CO2 laser. Diodes have been the newer thing. But it's kind of different tools for different jobs. I think, if if you have the space and the means, having a CO2 laser is great, but still having the diode laser is good. Adding maybe a fiber laser is good. And now you're seeing more of an influx of UV lasers. So it really kind of depends on what you're wanting to do, what what your resources are. A lot of them have some overlap in what they can do. Not 100%, but there are, just as just as CNC routers have some overlap with lasers, but there are good things that the router is better for than the laser, and vice versa. So I don't know that it's necessarily the future, but it's nice to have more of the technologies available to us and approachable. Mosquitoes. Should not have had my doors open this long. So I don't know. I mean, CO2 is kind of been around longer, so it's hard to say that it's the future, but it's where I think a lot of people think they need to grow into, but that may or may not be the case depending on what you're looking to do.
I think not necessarily the CO2 will change, but I do see us moving over to more of a RF style tubes than the glass tubes as things progress, as the technology gets more affordable and everything. Because it's just they last longer, more recyclable as far as being able to send them off and get them recharged or whatever the case may be. I feel like I think that's probably where everything's going to go to eventually. But I mean, there's no telling how long. There'll always be tube machines around for the foreseeable future, I'm sure. But I think the higher end machines are all going to eventually go RF tube of some type. And I'm really anxious to see if they ever incorporate fiber optics into like a CO2 style cabinet machine, but have a fiber machine, with fiber optic cables and stuff like that, but not quite the big commercial, 5x10 fiber cutters. But I'm kind of curious to see where they go with that, because I feel like there's going to be a bit of a combination of the different lasers into a machine. I know OhmTech currently has one machine I think it's a CO2 though, but you can hook gas to it and it'll basically like a little miniature plasma cutter and everything. So I think there's going to be some stuff like that come out, but I feel like there's a place for all of them.
Yeah. Jerry says, I can tell the temp in Minnesota by Steve's location. Steve in the shop, weather good. Steve in the basement, weather not so good.
He's on to something.
that can be part of it. Sometimes it's far more comfortable to sit at my office desk in that chair than it might be out here at times too. If I've been on my feet or sitting on a stool for too long, sometimes it's nice to get down in there. But yeah, more so in the summer than the winter. I mean, if it's cold, yeah, I'm not going to necessarily come out here, but was able to add some proactive heat last year, and that helped out a lot. So, but haven't gotten the ducks in a row to add the mini split for cooling yet.
Yeah, Thor is asking, do you gentlemen know the difference between the AtomStack X20 Pro laser modules? There's an S and a Y series. I try to order a new lens and trying to get from AtomStack is difficult. Now, up until recently, there was an atomstack.net and an atomstack.com. The machine designations were typically like the S series belonged to the .net folks, and the X series belonged to the .com folks. And we have no idea why they did that. But it created a lot of confusion. But if it's a AtomStack machine, I would be willing to bet it's one of two different lenses. And Steve knows the sizes better than I do because he makes replacement glass for those lenses. And maybe he'll let you know what those two sizes are. But you can actually take a caliber and measure it to know which one you have. Because they have the two different ones. They have the one that has the long tube, like the long, thin nozzle, and then they have the more fat, rounded, short nozzle. And depending on which one you have, there's a different lens underneath that.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of the original style ones that have more of the wider cone, those generally have like a your typical brass cap and then like about a 14 millimeter diameter um, piece of glass. You can get by with something a little bit smaller. In the case of mine, I actually make them at 1/2 inch, which is 12.5 millimeter. And then they just kind of they fit in place. You got to secure them in with the O-ring. But the smaller ones with the narrower air assist, I want to say that's like an 8 millimeter. It's 8 or 10 because I've seen them both and I'm trying to remember which one's there. But those are a little harder to come by. And so, yeah, the best thing to do is just take your air assist off and then measure that inner lens or lens cover. Sorry. There is, I should have to see it again. There was one. There's one place on Amazon that I found that I think had some of the smaller lenses. And Sculpt Fun also has smaller ones as well. Yeah, if it's an 8 millimeter, there is a place, Dofiki will sell them like a 3-pack. It's just the lens, the cover lens insert for about $17. But again, you'd have to measure it. If it's 10 millimeter, I haven't found ones for those. But I'll drop this link out there for the for that one that you can look at.
Matter of fact, there's some Steve lenses right there. Replacement lenses.
Bill, the A70 is the smaller size as well. I'd have to double check on that. So
Yes, it is. It's got the long, thin nozzle. The X40 also has a different housing, but it I think it still takes the bigger lenses.
Yep. Anyway, we are at 2 hours 7 minutes. So
yeah, it's getting that time.
Getting to be the time.
Miles Waldron said had the green screen demo. So what type of cameras and lighting are you using around the shots? Maybe a video for another day. A down in the weeds video. Good for you. Good info on the USB hubs. Yeah, I've got a whole host of camera stuff. Most everything I use is USB. I don't have any of the really commercial stuff. Like I said, most of mine is like Elgato or Logitech or Boya, DJI cameras and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I've actually started doing some videos on some of that stuff as well because people had asked me about, hey, I'm thinking about starting a channel. What do you think about this? And so me and Brandy were talking the other day and she's like, you know what? That's probably something people would be very interested in. But as we've discussed, this is kind of a business decision for me. I try to keep the Clack Shack channel, in the shop, like stuff that's in the shop. Even though technically making videos is kind of in the shop, I don't want to cause any confusion on what my channel is about. So on my other channel, I did release this video today, and basically it's kind of my what to expect when starting a YouTube and how my journey began, as far as you get to go back and see some of my original content that was terrible. And I got a few little tips and stuff in there, but not a lot because it's just a topic that can go on and on forever. So if you want to go check that video out, feel free. I'd appreciate it. Like, follow, subscribe, and all that good stuff. But I've created a playlist over on the other channel, on my home channel. And I'm going to start doing more like camera creator related stuff, if that's what you guys want to see. Now, if the video's a flop, there may not be another one, but if you guys like it, then I can do some more over there. But I don't want to do it on the Shack channel just for, trying to keep everything the way that it is expected. The other channel is kind of my just random things is on the other channel. So there's that. But anyway, Brian Smith, David, did you have more hair back when you? Actually, I've got the same amount of hair, but I had more color in my hair. The color has my hair's faded. I think it's the lights in the shop are fading it. I'm not sure, but it went from brown. Like I used to have brown and stuff down here.
It's all that UV exposure from the lasers.
I guess maybe it is. Maybe it's that 450 nanometers wavelength is knocking the color out of my hair. I'm not sure what's going on, but in the past 3 years, my hair has went from kind of like Steve's color to like clear, translucent.
I wear a protective cover, so
yeah. But anyway, there you go. But yeah, y'all can go check that video out if you don't mind, and let me know what you think. If you want more, if you like that kind of thing, there could be more of it. And Billy's asking, I would like to turn my D1 Pro into an IR laser. I found a 2-watt IR module from Laser Tree for the D1 Pro. Any thoughts? I have no experience with Laser Tree.
No, I mean, I know a number of people have used them, and I believe they drop into the D1 Pro they've got the cabling to do it. So it's kind of your option. The only thing I would say is that depending on the size of items you're going to want to do, your gantry style is going to be slower than a Galvo style. It's going to be cheaper. You already have the laser, you're just buying the module. But if you're doing small items, it's probably okay. If you're doing big items, it's going to be, it's just going to take time. But yeah, I don't have any personal experience with Laser Tree, but I have seen a number of people use them, and they seem to do it well. So,
yeah. All right, guys, that is going to be it for tonight. 2 hours and 12 minutes into it. Another one's on the books. If you're not one of our regular viewers, be sure to tune back in next Sunday night, where we'll guarantee for at least 2 hours of Q&A for you guys, and maybe some new tech. Who knows? I still don't know what this mystery package I got to sign for is that I got coming, but we'll see.
and maybe some music.
Okay, go ahead. I know you want to. Look at it this way. At least you can't run anybody off. We're fixing to be ending the show. Oh.
It's the last call.
25 years in blue, the bed shines bright, chasing shadows through the Clinton nights, but the clock keeps ticking, the time is near. David's trading sirens for a new frontier, stealing sparks, the future's loud, machines hum with a wild crowd.
Got a good beat.
Plans are drawn, the dreams unfold.
Thought you'd like this genre.
Shacks calling, a story untold. Oh, David's burning like a laser light, CNC whirring, cutting through the night. From cop to creative, the man's on track, turning sawdust into gold.
I think we're gonna get a strike for this one.
I'm guessing it's AI generated. Good.
Well, yeah. Anyway, thanks everyone for hanging out. I'm gonna get back there and close that out.
I'm assuming you created that with some of your AI tools that you like playing with.
Maybe. But yeah, we will be back next week. Hopefully we'll be getting more stuff done in our shop this week. So appreciate all the support, appreciate all the interaction on videos, on the chat here tonight, and we will see you again soon.
See y'all next week, guys.
Bye.